So good morning. So very welcome to you for our another webinar. So please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Warrior Anuvatnuchotiku from Bureau 8. I'm very privileged to be asked by the Thai Business Association of Vietnam for the second time round to be a host for another exciting webinar series, which is called Road to Retail Recovery Plan and Revenue Growth. At the moment, we've got about 168 people joining us so far. So we promise that this will be a very entertaining webinar where you gain some insights and knowledge from the retail sector from all our distinguished speakers. So before I go into the exciting content, I'd like to say a few words about the Thai Business Association and the True Digital Partnership. So on behalf of TBA, we are a non-governmental and non-profit organization. TBA is having various members from more than 120 Thai companies set up in Vietnam. Our main objective is to strengthen, support the Thai communities into Vietnam, as well as building up business relationships with other business communities. The TBA serves as the center of Thai business community and Thais living in Vietnam. We organize activities through business seminars, conference, networking among members to provide support to the Thai business in Vietnam, and at the same time to give back to Vietnam and thank Vietnam for welcoming all the Thai businessmen into your open arms. So you can find more useful information about TBA on our website on tbavietnam.org. So about True Digital, before I go into it, so I'd like to start a video to introduce you to who True Digital Vietnam is.
True Digital. True Digital is a digital transformation leader in Thailand, pioneering in cutting-edge technologies such as digital media and entertainment, online learning, artificial intelligence, big data, blockchain, cloud-based solutions, Internet of Things or IoT, and robotics. True Digital offers a wide range of digital products and solutions that promote business efficiency and reach, while offering safe, engaging, and convenient touchpoints for customers. So what does it mean for your business? Doing business is more than just goods and services. People constantly crave for human connection, both offline and online. Business ownership should be a link that bridges the communication gap between consumer and market, ever adjusting to modern customer needs. So let your business take on a new meaning today. True Digital, your partner in enabling your business's digital transformation.
So we hope that short video will tell you who True Digital Vietnam is. So just a few words about True Digital Vietnam. The organization is one of the subsidiaries of the True Digital Group. Now, True Digital Group exists to fully support in becoming the ultimate digital transformation enabler of Southeast Asia by extending its solutions and services to consumers and business in Vietnam. Now, True Digital's main mission is to uplift Vietnam through digital innovations and services in the rapidly growing digital economy of the Southeast Asia. So you can see from the video, True Digital promotes business efficiency and reach while offering convenient touch points for customers. Okay, so just a few, maybe just to introduce myself, where I am. So my name is Warrior Anuvatnuchotiku. I'm a Thai, I'm very privileged to be representing TBA in this talk. I'm the director of international business development for Bureau 8, responsible for international business expansion, primarily on the Vietnam market. So Bureau 8 is a digital transformation consultancy company with comprehensive offering in CRM, data analytics, and digital technology, specializing in Salesforce. We're a 12-year-old company with experience in CRM implementation, over 250 projects implemented all over ASEAN with offices in Thailand and Vietnam across a lot of industries. Just a few things about us, like we are the only selected company in Southeast Asia to be selected by Salesforce Ventures portfolio company, meaning that Salesforce believes in our delivery track record and growth capabilities. And as a result, we are provided with both strategic advisory and capital to build and scale up Salesforce service capabilities. This means that we belong to a global network of fast-growing companies such as MuleSoft, Dropbox, Velocity, and Salesforce, and that Salesforce invested in. As a matter of fact, Barrow 8 has just been floated on a Thailand market for alternative investment last Monday. So we're very excited on that. So for more information about us, please feel free to reach out to me or contact me and see how we can advise you to implement Salesforce technology into your organizations. So that's enough about me. So thank the people who are sponsoring this, apart from TBA and True Digital. I'd like to thank our co-host, the Canadian Chamber of Commerce in Vietnam, the Council of Taiwanese Chambers of Commerce in Vietnam, the Italian Chamber of Commerce in Vietnam, Indian Business Chamber in Vietnam, and Malaysian Business Chamber in Vietnam, and Singapore Business Group, as well with our corporate sponsors. Our corporate sponsors are Central Retails Vietnam, CP Vietnam, SCG Vietnam, Siam Commercial Bank, B Green Power Public Limited, Vina Keha, Mega, Cito Vietnam, and WHA Industrial Development. So that's all the names out of the way. So I'd like to get into the meat of this webinar now. Right? So I'd just like to set the scene on why this webinar is very timely at this very moment. Okay, so if you look into that, I'd like to maybe recap to you on the incredible story of Vietnam. Vietnam is the fastest growing middle class in Southeast Asia. I mean, the country has been experiencing phenomenal growth in the retail sector. Now, the trend looks to continue further in the future, given its relatively young population demographics, robust consumer spending behavior. Indeed, the rise of e-commerce and digital channels in Vietnam is one of the trends to watch top trends to watch. In 2019, according to Deloitte, it was expected that Vietnam's e-commerce market size was expected to be second only to Indonesia in the Southeast Asia region. So you can see that the few statistics on the right, that in 2018, it won about 142 billion in retail sales. It was the #1 fastest growing market for convenience store in Asia, #2 M&A deals in consumers and retail sectors between 2016 and 2017, and the #3 in terms of FDAs wanting to do investment flow into retail sector. However, that incredible growth story is being stalled by the pandemic, by the unfortunate COVID pandemic, which affects pretty much globally. So if you could go to the next slide. So this is the current situation in Vietnam. I took this from the website from Inside Retail. Like in 2021 in Vietnam, COVID really severely impacts the Vietnam retail industry. So what happened was that Vietnam retail plunged about 33.7% year on year in August 2021. And what happened is that the revenue from the trade deteriorated and declined. And unfortunately, the e-commerce sector recorded a negative growth because a lot of delivery services could not actually transport the goods throughout the country. So what are we to do about this? How is Vietnam going to be getting out of this situation? So we hope that this webinar is going to give you some insights, some thought leaderships and experience on that. So, okay. So if I could get the opportunity to welcome you and introduce you to Simon Wintels, the partner of Singapore McKinsey & Co. And he will be sharing us his vision and trends and recommendations for ASEAN retailers. So Simon, thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And thanks all for joining this morning, for some very early. I always get very excited when I get the chance to talk about retail, and especially retail in Vietnam. I hope you can see my screen well. I want to talk to you a little bit about how technology is influencing the future of retail, right? And some of this will be COVID related, some of this will be a little bit more dreaming and inspiration and perspectives for many of you. And this is nothing new, right? I'm not presenting anything shocking insights today, but I'm presenting some things that are really helping retailers do a better job at what they've been doing for the last 100+ years, right? Retail is nothing new. It's existed for a while. But Vietnam is a very exciting country. And the reason why it's exciting is if you look at how modern grocery or markets evolve in the way that they do retailing, it used to be very much along a typical S-curve, right? So the more income a country would have, the more modern grocery spending would increase, right? However, I think we're also at a stage where some of that old dynamic is actually changing, right? So even though I still believe that there's significant potential for further modernization of retail, right? More shopping happening in the bigger organized retail brands. I also see some very interesting things happening in two other places. One of the other places is in the traditional channel, so the general trade, fragmented trade, traditional trade channel, right? Everyone has different ways of talking about that. And the interesting bit is that that traditional channel, which typically was the victim of modernization, right? As organized convenience stores, as supermarkets, hypermarkets, mini marts started to expand, the people that suffered were the mom and pop stores, right? I think that that is no longer necessarily the case. I think that by modernization, by digitization, by modern solutions being introduced in these traditional trade channels, the economic life of these trade channels will be lengthened, right? So if you look at a lot of these players across the region in emerging markets here in Southeast Asia, but also India, but also in Latin America, there's a lot of exciting stuff happening, right? So there's a digitization of the ordering and the delivery process, right? A GeoMart, an Alibaba LST, a JDXTL in China, but also a Vinshop or a Telio in Vietnam is working really hard on digitizing the historically non-digitized processes to supplying some of these shops. But they're also thinking about points of sale integration, right? So they can do the replenishment better. They are thinking about providing other services, say financing to these small stores, right? So the traditional retail ecosystem gets integrated with the banking and the financial ecosystem. But they're also working on the B2C side, the consumer side. So B2C loyalty apps to get those consumers to shop at these small independent stores, but still able to get points and get best discounts and get best offers, because there's real money to be made from collecting the data, right? So the data and the analytics that you can do with that data is something that all of these companies are quite excited about capturing, right? Some people talk about data as being the new oil, right? So many different activities. B2C community group buying, a big thing that has shown its value in China, is quickly moving to Indonesia, India, and a little bit to Vietnam already, right? So you'll see more and more of this to extend the traditional trade. So it's not just the likes, a modern trade winning, traditional trade is fighting back. At the same time, you get what we call a bit of leapfrogging. So if you look at emerging markets in Asia, you see that they don't just go traditional, modern, and then e-commerce. E-commerce is expecting to leapfrog many of these things, right? So the path and the growth opportunities for your traditional chain stores, right, your convenience stores or your hypers and supers, isn't as obvious as it was 10, 15 years ago. So they will need to have an e-commerce online proposition, otherwise they won't count, right? So you actually see where on the right-hand side in advanced Asia, the penetration of e-commerce in retail in emerging Asia will almost surpass advanced Asia by 2025, right? So this e-commerce is in a very exciting space. It won't go as fast as China yet, but there's a lot of interesting stuff happening and big implications for many retailers, right? What's their online proposition for the consumers? And the problem is your competition is not just your other supermarket or hypermarket or even your mom and pop store, right? Competition also comes from other players in the ecosystem, right? In the broader food ecosystem, in the broader delivery ecosystem, because they are setting new heights for customer experience, right? And they're moving, right? They're shifting business models. So a DoorDash, a US company, Grab Market, but also like a Panda Mart or a Grab Mart in this region is actually moving from just a last mile provider to an upstream grocery store, right? So people are starting to encroach onto your territory. And they're always setting higher and higher bars, right? So Hema in China can do delivery of fresh products within 30 minutes to your door, right? Same for Meituan, same for Cloudpick, right? This is basically a technology as a service company that allows you to do cashier-free checkout. And it's not like this is just a China or a Western or a US technology. They've implemented this, I think, also in countries like Myanmar, right? So this is nothing, this means that the competition is coming from different angles, and it's not just competing for your consumers, but it's also setting the bar on what your shoppers are expecting in terms of experience. And of course, nothing new here, right? COVID-19 has reshaped consumer behavior. We see different recovery patterns for different categories, right? Travel is lagging. Other categories are actually growing really fast. We see much more flight for value. We see Generation Z or Z imposing their choices on where they want to shop and what is important for a brand as well as for a retailer. What do they stand for, and do they associate their own shopping behavior with the values of that retailer? People have changed how they live their lives at home, right? We're all still working from home. Some of us are in the office, but what we've actually doing at home on a day-to-day basis has changed. And we've seen a shock to loyalty, right? And there was a conversation this morning about how supply chains closed, which meant that some stores had the product, other stores didn't have the product. Consumers have actually shifted where they shop as a result of these supply chain disruptions. And if we look at who's capturing the gains from all of this, if you look at market capitalization in the past couple of years, you see that there's basically globally 25 winners. One of them is Amazon, right? The marketplace, first party, third party products. They are winning eyeballs. It's the shopping category for many to go first, right? We see the Chinese platforms, second biggest winner. We see other platforms outside of China, right? So all of the online platform players, marketplace players, as well as value players, right? The discounters, the people that provide great value for money. And there's 166 companies that haven't benefited at all from COVID, right? Their valuations are only 10% higher on average, whereas these others are triple as much in terms of valuation, right? So they are rewarded for their hard work and their hard effort. Now, what can you do as a retailer, right? All of this is exciting. All of this is nothing new, right? But all of this requires hard work. So the things that we see other retailers do on the merchandising side is exciting, right? And I think some of my fellow panelists or fellow speakers today will talk about some of the technologies that you can apply in stores and out of stores to up the customer experience, to work more efficiently, and to get more margins out of your business. Right? All the way from store location optimization, right? Using external data sets to understand where stores should be placed. To localized assortment. What do shoppers in this locality purchase, and how do I change my assortment to match their needs and their wants? To dynamic pricing, right? Still early stages, right? But electronic shelf pricing is something that retailers are experimenting with, not just for dynamic pricing, but also just for cost optimization, right? Updating prices every day is quite a manual process, and they'd like to automate some of that. But also real-time advertising, promo optimization, automated out-of-stock detection and minimization. These are all things that are happening, right? There's nothing shocking about this, but it requires work. Similarly for your store, right? Many different, what we call use cases, individual decisions that you can make better by using data, analytics, and technology. And we talked about self-checkout or mobile checkout. We talked about automated scheduling. We're talking about automated demand planning and replenishment, right? Which is a very, very important topic to minimize out of stock and maximize on-shelf availability. I talked about electronic shelf labels. Shelf scanning robots are getting better and better. So there's a lot of stuff that will have to change in your store that can have real impact on your footprint, right? So the big hypermarkets are not a winning format in this region, right? They are not doing that well. Rents are ever increasing. So what can you do to have a smaller footprint? What can you do to have fewer staff in the store and automate more, right? So those are all the questions that retailers are asking themselves in this region. And similarly on your DC, right? Still very much part of what you're doing, especially also for online, right? So how do you think about stacking and racking? How do you think about quality checks that are automated? How do you do order picking, right? Micro fulfillment centers and automated micro fulfillment centers. But how do you deal with fresh, right? How do you deal with some of the fresh produce that still is difficult for the customer to accept that somebody else picks it for them, right? So lots of interesting stuff, lots of technology that helps you do a better job in the future in your stores, in your merchandising, and in your DCs. And this is real, right? So I'm not telling you anything you don't know yet. This is an example of work that we as a consulting company are doing with one of our clients in South Asia on helping them unleash the power of digital and analytics, right? So we're getting actual significant improvement of EBIT. We've by now delivered 50 different use cases. So how do you use machine learning to set fresh prices? How do you do targeted promotions to the individual? How do you optimize your assortment? How do you know what should be on the shelf versus not, right? So how do you trade that off? How do you do better negotiations with your suppliers, right? But also, how do you build the capabilities? Because these are new people, new capabilities, new knowledge that they need to have. How do you build that? So we've also built a team of experts. With great results, right? This retailer is doing a fantastic job at capturing more margins from this, but it's hard work, right? I've said this multiple times. This is not straightforward, and many retailers get stuck, right? There's a famous quote from one of our clients that a few years ago said, "I don't get beyond the pilot stage. I can't do this at scale." And he actually said, "I have more pilots than Lufthansa." Right? He has tried so many things, but they don't scale. They stay super small, one store, one small use case. And what's typically stopping people is two things: big ambitions, right? So 83% of retailers that we talk about want seamless and engaging omni-channel customer experience. 60% at least is working hard on data and analytics capabilities. 50% is implementing new tech solutions. And you're all dealing, and we can talk about this for hours, with legacy systems. Maybe less so in Southeast Asia because some of you are newer to the business, but many existing retailers struggle because of their ERP systems, their replenishment systems, et cetera, et cetera. Whilst at the same time, on the right-hand side, you're not yet clear on how you capture value from this, because automation and digitization is hard. There's a lot of money spent on ERP systems, on tools, technologies that don't pay off, right? It takes new ways of working, right? So 2/3 are worried about how to change the ways of working to capture these opportunities, as well as the right talent, right? You're competing with the tech giants, right? For data scientists, for data engineers, right? You're competing, your employer value proposition is typically not as sexy as the Googles, in Vietnam's, all of the tech players, right? The Zalos, et cetera, et cetera. And most companies are worried about this, right? Because they feel that a large portion of their workforce will be affected. Skill gaps are in their top 10 priorities, right? They're not adequately prepared, right? 85% says we don't know how to address these gaps, right? And they need to be reskilling at least half of their employees, right? So how do you think about capabilities? How do you get new people in, but also how do you reskill and retrain your current workforce, right? Because their roles will change, not their entire roles. It's not like you automate 100% of somebody's role, but you automate 10, 20, 40, 60% of their role. They'll need to work differently and they'll need to work with different technologies. So how do you actually build that up, right? And remember that retailers are either the first or the second largest employer of people in the world, right? Typically, they employ tens of thousands of people in their stores, in their DCs, in the supply chain, all of which need to be reskilled. So the big questions we typically ask and help our clients answer is, one, are you aspirational? Will it really win your consumer, your shopper, your customer, right? And is the business case evident, right? Because there's a lot of shiny toy syndrome. People that see this cool technology and tell their IT folks to implement it, and then nothing happens because the business case isn't clear, the business is not bought in, and nothing changes, right? Tech, do you see tech as an expense or a competitive weapon? And do you understand it sufficiently enough to not get trapped in waterfall, right? How do you do agile development of these? How do you do a proof of concept, a pilot, an MVP, and then go to scale, rather than wait 18 months for the solution to be ready? And who are you partnering with? This is not done alone, right? Who in the ecosystem of technology providers, human resource providers, front-end developers, back-end developers, software engineers, data scientists, data engineers, who are you partnering with to develop these solutions? And how do you compete for talent? How do you win the battle for talent? Do you know what good looks like? The difference between a good engineer versus a bad engineer is not 20%, right? Your salespeople or your cashiers or your shelf stockers, the room of error between performance is maybe 20% or 30%, but the difference between a good engineer and a bad engineer is a factor of 15, right? And are you really addressing the way that you work? Are you fundamentally changing your DNA, right? So wanted to leave you with that. I know I've powered through this in very rapid speed, but I think there's more interesting stuff coming. So let me hand it back to the host for the next session.
Okay, thank you very much, Simon. I actually really enjoyed that talk, because what I got from it, okay, everyone has heard of the technologies, but what are the key things that I've got from that? It's hard work. You need to be ambitious, but you need to be realistic. It's a lot of uncertainty doing this, and you need to have the right talents. And the framework that you gave us at the end was clear. You know, are you crystal clear on your business, on your technology, on the right talents to make it work? So it gives us, you know, instead of going headlong into implement technologies, you know, you've given us a good framework to have a think about on how to make the business success by thinking about these 3 key factors. So thank you very much for that, Simon. And I'm sure we'll be visiting that throughout, especially in the conversation that we'll have later on. Thank you.